So with the first episode of the Shibuya incident arc airing in less than a week on August 31st, the hype is unreal, especially after getting the trailer for the arc and seeing all those hype moments and sneak peeks into all the fight scenes the arc has to offer. But even though there are a lot of fights in this arc, and I mean a lot, there are also some incredible story beats and twists that you will need context and remember specific plot details from the previous season in order to get fully invested into and feel the impact of those moments. And that's why I'm here with the 5 things that you need to remember before going into the Shibuya incident arc of Jujutsu Kaisen. Also, this video will not contain any spoilers whatsoever, so you're safe on that front. And I will only mention details that have been mentioned explicitly in the anime thus far, or can be easily deductible from the information we would have gotten just from watching the first season and the movie. Welcome to my channel Baseless Upain, and without wasting any more time, let's get started with the 5 things that you need to know before going into the Shibuya incident arc. Number 5. Ghettos Plan. So first up on the list we have Ghettos Plan, which even though we don't know the full extent of it, we have heard it in 3 separate occasions, once on episode 6, the second time on episode 7, and the third time on episode 21. On episode 6, Jogo asks Kato, what can the curses do in order to have an advantage over the Jujutsu sorcerers and claim their superiority? And Kato replies that in order to achieve that, they need to do 2 things. First is getting Gojo Satoru incapable to fight, and the second is to get Sukuna or Itadori on their side. And in order to achieve the first goal, Kato mentions that they will need to seal Gojo. And in order to do that, they are going to use the special grade cursed object, the Prison Realm, which by the way happens to be the same rarity as the Sukuna fingers, so you know they're the real deal. And we get the continuation to this plan later on in episode 7. And here Kato mentions that they will start their plan of sealing Gojo at the appropriate time at the appropriate place once they have secured an advantage over him, and they'll carry it out on October 31st at Shibuya, which, if you haven't pieced together already, is foreshadowing and setting up for the Shibuya incident arc. And the third time this plan is mentioned is on episode 21, and it is pretty much just reconfirmation of what we heard in episode 7, and the fact they are now going to keep everything they have in reserve for October 31st for Shibuya. Number 4. Megumi's secret technique and Sukuna. Next up we have Megumi's secret technique and Sukuna's relationship with him. Both are 2 things which have been mentioned quite a few times in season 1. Starting off with Megumi's secret technique, it was mentioned explicitly in episode 5, 18 and 23 of season 1. In episode 5, when Sukuna was holding Itadori's heart hostage and fighting against Megumi, we learn a bit about Megumi's ideals and values, and when it seems like he's at his wit's end, he tries to use a technique which for some reason also manages to surprise Sukuna and get him excited. Sukuna also mentions something about that technique burning through Megumi's life force, but ultimately Megumi doesn't end up using that technique in that episode. In episode 18, when he's fighting Hanami together with Maki and they are about to lose, he once again tries to use that technique but doesn't end up going through with it because Todo and Yuji save them. And finally in episode 23, when Megumi is fighting against that special grade curse and seems gravely injured, he once again tries to use that technique but remembers what Gojo told him about him always trying to throw his life away by using that technique instead of fighting as hard as he could possibly before finally resorting to it, so he once again decides not to use that technique. And Sukuna has been shown to have some kind of interest in Megumi and his technique multiple times throughout the show as well. In fact, he even forms his pact with Itadori because he thinks that he will get to witness something interesting soon while thinking about Megumi. And even Kato seems to have an idea that Sukuna has taken interest in a student from the Jujutsu High. Number 3. The Traitor. Next up on the list is something that isn't really focused on a lot, but it is mentioned by Gojo a few times, and that is the existence of a traitor in Jujutsu High working together with the curses. I was considering not putting it on this list, but I decided to put it here because of the fact that it's only mentioned around 2 times in season 1, and I feel that it is quite important for people to keep in mind. Number 2. Sukuna Fingers. Next up on the list is something that is not just important for the Shibuya incident but for the whole series, and it's the locations of every single Sukuna finger that we know so far. Starting off, Yuji starts the series off by eating the first finger and eats the second one given to him by Gojo in the second episode. Then Sukuna eats the third finger, which was absorbed by the special grade curse in episode 5. We find out that Jujutsu High has another 5 fingers stored, and they retrieve another finger from the incident with Mahito and Junpei, all of which then get stealed by the curses during their invasion in the exchange event. Then in the final episode, Sukuna eats another finger obtained by Megumi by fighting another special grade curse, which brings the total amount of fingers eaten by Yuji to 4 and the amount of fingers possessed by Geto and the curses to 6, a total of 10, meaning that there are still 10 more fingers out there. Number 1. Geto's scar. And the final thing to remember before going into the Shibuya incident is possibly the biggest mystery in the entirety of Jujutsu Kaisen, and something that gets more confusing the more you watch Jujutsu Kaisen, and that is, what's the deal with Kato? In season 1 we saw him being allied with the curses, and he for some reason believed that the curses should rule over the world and they are the superior life forms, whereas in the movie and hidden inventory arc, which adds context to his actions in the movie, we find out that his ideology is to make a world free of curses for Jujutsu sorcerers, and he is willing to kill every single non-sorcerer in the world in order to achieve that goal. And he doesn't have any kind of hatred towards Jujutsu sorcerers, and even considers them as family while referring to non-sorcerers as monkeys, which is completely different from his beliefs in season 1. And the thing that's even crazier is the fact that it's implied at the end of the movie that Gojo ended up killing Geto, and even though we didn't see it ourselves, we can clearly hear something being sliced in half, which is also implied by the fact that he has a scar on his forehead in season 1, meaning that he somehow managed to survive after being killed by Gojo at the end of the movie, and in 1 year somehow managed to change all his ideologies and beliefs, which is insane to think about considering what he believes in season 1 compared to the movie and hidden inventory arc are almost the polar opposites of each other. So what exactly happened in the 1 year that almost turned him into a completely different person, and how the hell did he manage to survive after getting killed by Gojo? But yeah, those are the 5 things that I felt like people absolutely needed to be reminded of before moving into the Shibuya incident arc of season 2. And I hope this video helped some people who didn't have time to rewatch season 1 and the movie, and also helped some people prepare themselves for one of the best arcs in shonen anime. With all that being said though, that's pretty much all I have for this video. Please leave a like on this video if you found it helpful, and subscribe to my channel for more JJK or anime content in general. Have a nice day and peace.